Hello. Cheers.
Cheers, Dave.
Cheers,
Thanks for coming down today.
Well, it's coming up, isn't it? It's coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
Words can't get out. It must be the tea. 2017 was when I first came up to see you here.
2 years. Well, it's more than 2 years because it was the summer.
It was the summer, wasn't it? And do you know what was really interesting? A lot's changed in 2 years.
Huge amount.
Huge amounts changed in 2 years because you were doing loads of video and still are. I was doing a huge amount of video and still am, although probably less on the clinical side and more on the other kind of coaching, mentoring, social media stuff. But we sat out in your garden and you interviewed me. And that was probably the first time I'd really talked about kind of the story of my spina bifida, school surgery, and then on to nursing and podiatry. And I remember putting that, because it was before we went on holiday, and I put it out while we were on holiday in the July. And it went out over something like 10 episodes. It was a big, I mean, we were talking for ages, weren't we? And we kind of cut it into different bits, and it was brilliant. I loved it. It was great. So here we are again, 2 years later.
Yeah, and you've told your story in different ways since then, haven't you? A few times.
Told my story in different ways. I've told my story on stage. I've told other elements of my story on stage as well, which I wasn't expecting to. It's been a pretty interesting time. But what I'm interested in is your story.
Oh yeah.
So where did this all begin, Potty Purple Pod?
What, my podiatry journey?
Because there's loads of things. I mean, there's loads of things we could talk about. I'm really interested in your journey because I think it's interesting. It's interesting kind of the evolution you've gone through. And it's interesting the evolution that you've gone through, not just as a person or as a brand or as a podiatrist, but also as a business person as well. That's where a lot's changed too.
Yeah. Well, back in 2017, I didn't have purple hair.
No, you didn't, did you?
Mm-hmm. So that was, I think that was 2018, if I'm not mistaken, when I had purple hair. So yeah, the purpleness just kind of like ramped itself up. And the last time you came, we didn't have purple walls either. We had lilac walls. We hadn't quite got to this level of purple. So anyway, to answer the question that you asked, my journey into podiatry, I left school at the age of 16, not knowing what I wanted to do. And I'll give you the short version. Drifted into a civil service job because Mum said you're not sitting on the settee watching TV all day, which is what we used to do in those days. In fact, no, we didn't have daytime TV, correct me. But you're not sitting and slobbing around all day. You know, if you don't know what you want to do, you can go and get a job. Why don't you come and work where I work? She was a civil servant. While you figure yourself out.
Heard that before.
The figuring myself out process took about 12 years. I sat in that job for 12 years and of course was supremely unhappy doing it because it wasn't what I wanted to be doing. Finally figured out that I wanted to be a podiatrist after a conversation with a colleague at work who basically said to me, why don't you go and do it? And I went, well, it's going to take me 5 years to get qualified and I'll be 31 by then. And she said, how old will you be in 5 years if you don't do it? That was the light bulb moment where I went, and suddenly I saw myself at the age of 31 looking back, bitterly regretting not having acted upon that realisation, if you like. So that very day I went to the then Padgate College, which is where they did evening classes for A-level human biology. I saw the lecturer. This was about this time of the year, actually. It was around October half term. They'd been in school for like a good 6 weeks. And I basically said, oh, well, I've come to inquire about the course. Obviously, it's too late for me to start. But, you know, what do I need to be doing to prepare for next year? And he said, it's not too late for you to start the course. And I went, really? And he said, yeah, you can start the course. He said, I deliver human biology 2 nights a week. We do a condensed programme, so we condense the 2-year syllabus into 1 academic year, essentially 9 months. And we do that through doing a topic per class. We do 2 classes a week, Monday and Wednesday. He said, you haven't got the time to take the notes that you're going to require to pass this exam, so I provide you with the notes. I will give you the notes that you need, that you've missed for the last 6 weeks, 12 topics. You go away and learn them, keep up with the pace of everything that we're doing 2 nights a week and the homework between now and the exam, and you'll pass. I went, right, what's the chances of me getting a grade E, given that I've missed all this material? And he said, what's the chances of you working hard enough? That was gauntlet moment. There we go. So I did, and I sat that A level, and there was nobody more surprised than me to get a grade A in it. I put that down to his teaching and his excellent notes, by the way. Sadly, his name was Dave, actually. Dave Cooper, dead of lung cancer now, several years ago. But he was a great teacher, and I owe my success at human biology to him. And I then was in the situation where I got the results. The A-level results day came out, I think it was the 17th of August, and the course started on the 17th of September, and I needed to give a month's notice to my job. So that was the moment where I really made the decision to do podiatry, because I'd written my letter of resignation, but the question was, did I have the guts to hand it in and go, I quit? There was no greater feeling of satisfaction than handing in that letter, let me tell you. And so I went to Salford, did podiatry for 3 years, qualified. The rest, as they say, is history. Best thing I ever did. Loved my job, still love my job. Went through a phase where I didn't love my job when I was working in the health service, and now I'm back in love with it again, now that I'm in the driving seat of my own future.
I think a lot of people go through that falling out of love. It seems to be, from the people I've spoken to, there is...
It won't be just unique to podiatry either.
No, absolutely. It's life in general, isn't it? It's life in general.
Yeah.
So there's a history as well for you of being offered a challenge. A bit like, have you seen the film Back to the Future?
Ooh, long time ago, yeah.
So in Back to the Future, Martin McFly, the main character, is notorious for being called a chicken and being challenged, and he always takes the challenge up and always ends up somewhere bad because of it.
Oh, right.
And towards the end of the third movie, basically, he doesn't.
Good, yeah.
But there's always that. It seems to be that point where, here's a challenge. Can you do it? Here's a challenge. And I think from what talking to you, I think there seems to be a point where you go, yeah, if there's a challenge, I'm gonna win. It's a game. I'm gonna win that.
Yeah, and if somebody tells me I can't do something that I think I can do, well, yeah. And the thing, I think that probably the thing I've learned the most, I mean, I knew it when I saw you last time, but I think it's ramped up even more. The more people tell me I can't do something, or I need to ask permission to do something, the more I go, no, I don't. I just need to do it. I don't need your permission. I don't need to ask you if I can make this video, demonstrate this procedure, whatever. I can do it, And it'll be whoever's watching or not watching that decides whether it's worth watching or not.
Yeah, down to the individual, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can do what you do, but it's up to people to receive it in the way they want to receive it.
Yeah, I mean, earlier on this year we did the Pods Heal Heals campaign.
Yeah.
And I put a few things on Instagram, a few videos on, using an ice bottle to, soothe any inflamed area, and a few other videos, can't remember what they all were now. And there were a few trolls coming in, sort of with a critique of, what's your evidence base for this and blah, just overcomplicate it. All I was trying to do was put out some simple guidance to help people who might be in heel pain, to sort of say, try this. I wasn't sort of coming up with the cure for cancer or anything like that. But it was interesting to me that there were a few trolls coming in there to sort of say, you just make videos of opening parcels. Well, he didn't have to watch them, but clearly he must have done to be critiquing them. And I'll have you know, my parcel time videos are some of the most watched videos that I make. I might make what I think is the most insightful treatment for whatever condition, but my parcel time videos will probably get watched far more.
It's really interesting. There are people with millions of subscribers on YouTube who make regular parcel time videos, so it works. It works.
People like to know what's in the box.
So you've done I mean, your evolution in just the last 2 years alone, I think, it's been great to watch because
thank you.
Well, because what you've done, and you said it earlier, you're very welcome, is that you've taken you and you've embraced you and you've gone with you. You haven't kind of gone, oh, I'm not so sure about it. There's a lot of people, I think, who, and I did an article or a thing on this about putting your head above the parapet. As soon as you put your head above the parapet, somebody will throw something at you. And it's been really interesting watching how you kind of respond to that. And it's been great to watch. And some of the things you do, I'm kind of like, oh, I can't do that. I could, but I've just decided I can't do it. But some of the things you do are amazing for that. In the last 2 years, what do you think has been the one thing which has made the biggest difference for you? In I suppose, in you, in being a podiatrist, or in your business? What's been the one thing?
Learning how to video edit, because one of the things that I couldn't do when you came up here, so yeah, I used to do a lot of videos, but they would all be live ones because I had no capability of video editing whatsoever. And the phone I had at the time wasn't capable of video editing at the time. In fact, I think Tim Veazey Smith, our pal, Tim Veazey Smith, gave me his old iPhone 5. In fact, it might have been his son's old iPhone 5 that was languishing in a drawer somewhere.
That's the one from 1865, isn't it?
Something like that. Yeah. But you can do iMovie on it. Now, I've got an iPad, but it's 5 years old. You can't do iMovie on that. And so, with that phone, although the battery used to
This is the other thing about doing videos, you see. He turned up for a video earlier as well, so...
I want to be famous.
Was it? You're already famous.
You're infamous now. I lost my thread now.
Video editing, iPhone 5.
So
Tim Veazey Smith.
Tim Veazey Smith. So I got to grips with iMovie and what you could do with that, apart from the fact that the battery would always fail and I didn't have enough memory on it because it doesn't have a lot of memory and blah blah blah. Anyway, I then invested in a new Huawei P20.
It's easy for you to say.
Android phone. I've only ever had Android phones apart from the one that Tim Veazey Smith gifted to me. And I downloaded some editing software called Power Director where you can edit on the phone. Oh my life. That has been a game changer. Because I started off doing very, very simple, basic edits. And then it was kind of like, what does this button do? What does that button do? Oh, I can put captions on it. Oh, I can, not captions, titles. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can put a smiley face. And, I can add music. Oh, I can add sound effects. And so a lot of people message me now saying, how do you video it? That's me!
Yeah.
Me! Miss non-video editor. And so that's made a huge difference because it means that I can now take, like a video I've done today on the lunge challenge, which I don't know is probably like 3-4 minutes of me doing lunges. I can condense it into 15 seconds to a Slade track on TikTok and stick it out there. So it's still the same performance, but people's attention, blah, blah, blah. But they find that entertaining. Who am I to deny them?
It's interesting listening to you talk about that because when I first started doing video, it was 2015. Yeah, it was 2015. And I actually went straight into, I had iMovie on a Mac and I actually went straight into putting kind of titles and editing various bits in. I went down that geek route first. And probably, if anything, I've gone back. I still edit stuff, but even today, I did a video this morning which went out on my personal wall, and that was filmed on the iPhone on the way to the gym. It was edited on the iPhone and it was uploaded to Facebook from the iPhone. It never touched the computer. And for me, it is about getting that simplicity. And you can do some really funky things with it. The editing is key, though. Mm-hmm. The editing is key. But I think there's that other step beforehand, which is the actual story behind it.
Yes.
And that's something you do really well. I love your storytelling.
Thank you for
brilliant.
that feedback. I really appreciate that. But what I'd say to that is, when I'm conceptualizing it in my head, I'm thinking, right, how can I make this entertaining for somebody? How can I give them a beginning, a middle, and an end in an entertaining way? And I guess I kind of default into that as I'm doing the process. It's kind of like, I need a picture of this to have a still shot of that to do, and there's a lot that I'll chop out. I mean, that salsa video
Yeah.
that Jonathan beautifully recorded by Jonathan on Saturday for me, which is 7 minutes of me dancing to a salsa track and getting exhausted, thinking it was a 3-minute one and they put the 12-inch version on. But anyway, that's another story. Anyway, I cut that down to like 45 seconds worth of what I perceive to be worthy content to stick that up on Instagram.
What's your most perfect video?
Don't really worry about perfection.
See, that's a key point as well, because if you did worry about perfection, we wouldn't have ever seen a video.
No.
And I see I see that from. I mean,
Yeah.
I am guilty of wanting to do the best video out there and not feeling happy with it. But over the last couple of years, I've had to become more comfortable with putting something out there, which for me isn't perfect.
Yeah.
Because unless you do that, you don't start to move forward and progress.
Well, to me, if you decide I can't put that out there because it's not of a sufficient standard to satisfy me, you'd never put anything out there, because none of the stuff that you have done would satisfy you. Not the real perfectionist David.
No, I am. Yeah.
You know, every time you put a video out, Colin's on your shoulder going, no, it needs more work. No, it needs more. And you're going, shut up, Colin, it's going out. And it's only by doing that if we didn't put it out there, there'd be nothing there for people to watch, nothing for people to learn from. And then how many people wouldn't be helped by the fact that we didn't put any stuff out there? And if we're here saying to other healthcare professionals, podiatrists, dentists, whoever, you need to be showcasing what you do so people can understand how you help them. If we're putting that message out and we're not leading from the front by doing it, then that makes us hypocrites. And I can't live with being a hypocrite, as you can probably
Yes. I wouldn't like to hear the story about that if it happened. But I can guarantee it'll be on a video. No, the video stuff's been really interesting for you. It has been fantastic to watch. It's been really good, and that's made a big change to your business as well.
I think so. I seem to attract the kind of people that I want to attract now, because I put myself out there as the Potty Purple Pod. If somebody walks in here and goes, "It's too purple," I literally open the door and go, "Well, the beige ones are down the road." I do, because if they're telling me I don't like your purple, I'm sorry, it's not getting any less purple any day soon. I'm not doing it, to please other people. I'm doing it to please me. I like working in this environment. I'm going to be in here 8 hours a day. They're going to be in here for half an hour. I have to make myself happy first. If I don't make myself happy first, I can't project the energy that it requires to do this job, to make people feel welcome, make people feel cared for, and all the rest of it. So that's what I do.
And it's a valuable point. It's a massively valuable point, because I think sometimes we do try and shape ourselves to attract patients, attract customers. And we do that. I mean, we always do it in the early stages of our business anyway, because you need people coming through the door to pay for your equipment, to pay for your mortgage, pay for your rent, whatever it is. But then, and there's an evolution on this for me, and I've talked about this with other people, many other people. You see everyone because you need to, then you realise you haven't got the skills to see everyone, so you go and do all the training to see all those people, and then when you've got all the skills and you can treat them, you realise that 80% of the people who you're seeing are not the people you want to be around. And it's that key 20% you want to work on, but it's really hard to shift that 20% and turn it into the majority. And by attracting the people who you get on with and the people who like you, it's great, but also at the same time it's kind of repelling the people who don't like you. Repel's a really strong word, but that's really what you're doing. And what was interesting, I was reading a great article the other day, I don't know what you think about this, where they were saying that you can have your ideal customer, you can do all of your marketing towards that ideal customer, but you will still attract people who are not your ideal customer. And it's weird how that happens, that people will just turn up on your doorstep who are very much not your ideal customer, but they still find their way to your door, despite everything being purple, despite the videos, despite lunges on TikTok to Slade, all that kind of stuff. People will still turn up here who are not your people. And it's a very interesting thing to think that actually I'm doing all this work to bring certain people to the yard, and actually there's other people who shouldn't be here are coming along anyway.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because there's nothing on my website about musculoskeletal problems. I tell a lie, there is something currently on heel pain. But other than that, there's nothing on my website about musculoskeletal problems, and yet still people come to see me about their musculoskeletal problems. And I'll even go as far as to tell them, I'm not an expert in MSK, it's not my strength. You know, my strength is dermatology and skin and stuff like that, because that's what I'm really into. You know, if we started talking about psoriasis and eczema and verrucas and, you know, all that dermatitis and all that sort of stuff, we'd be here all night. But if you ask me about the origin and insertion of peroneus longus, I'd probably be here scratching my head and going, I just need to have a look at that anatomy out. But anyway, but still people will come and see me. And even, this is true, this happened recently. Somebody said, you know, I started running, I've been getting this problem, blah, 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 blah. And I said, look, I'm more than happy to have a look at it for you. I'm more than happy to do my best at getting to a diagnosis for you, but I am not an expert in MSK, and there are other people that you might want to go to if your goal is to, I don't know, run a half marathon, run a 10k or whatever. And she was like, well, no, I just want to do the 5k park run actually. And I went, and she said, and I only want to go somewhere local, because I was suggesting she went to see Andrew Ayres, who's like my nearest musculoskeletal specialist that really is an expert in rehab. He's done lecturing. In fact, he was at the Foot and Ankle show you introduced.
He was, I did.
And so he's local to me. I perceive local. You know, it's 35. If you were a runner, you'd drive 35 miles to get your whatever fix.
If I was a runner, I'd run 35 miles.
Exactly. So I was suggesting that she might want to go and see him. She said, no, I want to come to someone local. And I said, fine. And so she did. And it wasn't such a significant problem that it needed a lot of complex rehab. But if on assessing her I felt it had, I would still have been, you know, driving that home. But yeah, I don't do anything to encourage MSK clients, is what I'm saying. But they still find me because I care to help them. I've helped as many as I can. But
and because as well, your marketing changed significantly with the videos. There was more of you out there, and people went, oh, it looks like the kind of stuff that she can help me with. I'll go and see her. So your marketing just amplified what you did, even though the fact you're a podiatrist, it amplified that, even if it wasn't the kind of stuff you're interested in.
Well, if we go back to Pod's Heels, you know, we ran that campaign at February 2019, something like that. And I did create quite a bit of content around that, because I felt that as a podiatrist, you know, we wanted to sort of like put the message out there that we do know a lot about foot problems. I'm not saying we've got the monopoly on it. You know, physios know a lot and all that kind of thing. But by and large, we are, because we focus on the foot, pretty expert at it, I'd like to say. And so, you know, for the bits of it that I do know about, I thought I'll put my penny in the hat, and I'll be part of that tribe that is pushing the information out there to encourage people to find a podiatrist if they're sat there suffering in silence with heel pain. So even though I'm not an MSK orientated podiatrist, I was prepared to step out of my comfort zone for long enough in order to be part of that campaign, to support that end of my profession, if you like, because that's what we all need to be doing. And if I'm telling other people they need to be doing it, I have to be doing it and saying, well, this is what I'm telling you to be doing.
Leading by example.
But obviously the repercussions of that was I attracted people with heel pain, which, well, who knew? Who
knew? So we know that the kind of podiatry and foot health landscape is changing, and we're not going to get onto a big discussion about that, because that will still be here by Christmas. But there's going to be more and more people coming into kind of private practice now. What would be your kind of 3 tips for anyone who's maybe working NHS, or maybe is working for themselves and wants to join another practice, or is looking to move into private practice? What 3 tips would you give them?
If I were, let's go if I'm graduating from college now, right? If I were a recent graduate from college, my tip would be go identify the 3 top practices that do the sorts of things that you love to do, and go work with them for free for 3 months. And you are going to learn a ton, an absolute ton, and it is going to be the foundation stone to take you where you want to go. In fact, I was having this conversation with Alice Law only at the Foot and Ankle show on Saturday, the girl who got me those flowers over there. When she came to shadow me here at the practice in August, because she's a second year, no, she's in her third year now. She's just completed second year. Yeah. She's a third year student now. And when I saw her in August, she was saying she wanted to do an MSc and go down the surgery route because she'd spent some time shadowing surgery. And I went, that's great, but don't just nail your flag to that mast yet, because you've got a lot of experiences to have before you decide where your groove is. Yes, you might be attracted to that. It might have a bit of a it's a very sexy magnetic kind of thing, isn't it, surgery? I said, but equally you need to expose yourself to different experiences. And my advice to her was, if you can afford to not earn a bean, in fact, decide how long you can afford not to earn a bean for, and go through, pick 3 practices in different parts of the country and go work with them, volunteer your services, make tea, brush the floor, whatever it takes, in order to be exposed to the sorts of things that they're doing, and so you can get a taste of all these things, and from then you make a decision of what area you want to go into. And that would have been, that's my top tip for a new graduate. If somebody's if somebody's currently stuck in the health service, as I was 6 years ago, thinking, I am really unhappy with this, I'm unhappy with the direction it's going in, I'm spending less time with patients, more time on a computer, and not really feeling like I'm making a difference, which is what I went into this job to do, I would seriously sit down and think about what aspects of podiatry make me happy, and I would put myself in a situation to do more of it. Now that might be by setting up myself, which is a huge task, or it would be doing an example of what I've just said. Find a podiatrist that's doing the sorts of stuff that you want to do, go spend time with them, volunteer for nothing if you possibly can, or volunteer to do trade skills or whatever, in order to get the exposure to the sort of stuff that you want to do, and then grow yourself into being the podiatrist that you want to be, that's going to make you happy in the long run.
I like that.
Thank you.
That's only one thing though, isn't it?
It's only one thing.
So you've got to think of 2 more.
2 more.
That's me being cruel.
I'd say you need to be self-aware about what your own strengths are. So if you were in a health service situation thinking, do I go into business for myself or do I work for someone else? You have to know, do you have the strengths, skills, talents, desire to be self-employed? Or do you need to work for somebody else? And, only people can answer that for themselves. I mean, to be in practice here, I've got to be, doing a certain level of admin, bookkeeping. I mean, I outsource a lot of this stuff now, but originally when you start, you have to do it all yourself. So you're the marketer, you're the bookkeeper, you're the accountant, you're the stock orderer, you're the cash flow manager, you're the banker, you're being all of those things as well as the practitioner. Being the practitioner is the minority thing that you end up doing if you're self-employed, and you have to be mindful of, am I capable of that? Is that for me? And that'll be the trap actually that keeps people working in the health service by and large, because it's kind of like, oh, I can't take on board all that burden, if you like. And so I'd say if you want to be free of that, you need to figure out what you're capable of doing, and work out your own capabilities. And thirdly, so do I go into private practice or don't I? Do I stay in the health service or not? Which bit of podiatry do I like and where is it happening? Or do I want to leave podiatry altogether, I suppose. You've pretty much left podiatry. You've left clinical practice, haven't you?
Yeah, I do a little bit now, so with teaching.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of clinical practice there and with Forgotten Feet. And I enjoy it. It was... There's some interesting conversations around that, and not for this video probably, because we'd be here all night. But yeah, it was a very deep choice. I had my business for 8 years. And it was a very deep choice about whether I continued down that route, which was possible. It was a very safe place to be, or whether there was other things I wanted to focus on. And it was a very deep conversation. I'm not even sure I still have the answers yet, but I'm perfectly satisfied.
You're on a journey of self-awareness.
Oh, do you know? And I started in podiatry in 2007. Well, I started in 2004 training, qualified 2007. So in the 12 years, a lot's happened. Private sector, running a business, selling it, master's degree, NHS at band 6, band 7, charity, education, coaching, mentoring, probably apart from surgery and some of the clinical specialities around, holding diabetes roles and rheumatology roles. I was the MSK lead and nail surgery lead for the trust I was in. I think I've done a bit. I think I've been busy over those years, but it was that was part of that natural evolution. Which probably leads me on to the last question, which would be, because we all need to finish up at some point, otherwise we could just talk for days. We could just go on forever. In the last 2 years, a lot's changed. What's going to happen in the next 2 years? When we're sat here in 2021 with our Zimmer frames, drinking tea, what's 2021 going to look like?
I know what I hope 2021 is going to look like. I hope that we've got a more integrated foot health profession. I hope that we've got someone that can start by being in an assistant role or a support role, able to apprentice into podiatry and progress through up to degree level, master's level, that kind of thing. I hope that we've managed to bring the whole family of it together, so that instead of being, fighting at different corners of the playground, which is what we appear to be at the moment, that we've got a more cohesive and integrated, friendly environment to develop people that can then help other people with foot problems, because that's what we're here for, is to help people fix their foot problems. We're not here to fight about what we're calling ourselves and what we do on this side of the fence versus that side of the fence. That's just my personal opinion. How about you? What do you hope we do in 2 years?
I'd agree with that. I would agree with that entirely. I think, and that's, there's lots of things going on at the moment around HEE and things like that, which people watch this video in 2 years' time.
HEE.
Yeah, Health Education England and what they're doing with looking at the whole of the foot health industry. But I echo that. I echo that completely.
And I think it's going to happen. I mean, the cogs are already turning in that direction, and we're already told that there's going to be a huge demand for people to be involved in diabetes care and the complications of diabetes care because of the levels of diabetes going up. And we're constantly hearing the headlines of, before much longer, a quarter of all the health service resources, or it might be more than a quarter of the health service resources, are going to be spent on diabetes care and that kind of thing. So we need people skilled in looking after diabetic foot ulcers and, all the other sort of stuff. And if it's not going to be podiatrists, who's it going to be? Somebody will, if there aren't enough podiatrists, somebody will have to fulfill that role, because that need is going to be there and the market will determine it. Now, if podiatrists aren't in the driving seat of making sure they're part of that future.
Good marketing.
Exactly.
It's going to be an interesting time. But yeah, I'd echo that. We're seeing a change now. We need to see more of a change. There's some interesting stuff going on. Very exciting stuff going on. Very scary stuff going on.
Scary for whom?
I think it's a really good question. The scary bit comes up for me more around the attitudes. The people we hang around with are of a particular type of person. We're forward thinking, we're open, we're inclusive. I think what scares me is seeing the people who fear it and are worried about what's going on and are very angry about it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. We've got somebody popping in as well now. He's going to come and tell you about your tea, probably.
No, let me see. Do you want to stop here and I'll get off?
What time is it now? No, I'll come. Or are you going now?
You've got to have a frock on, yes, haven't you?
Yes.
This is what happens when you do interviews, you see. So
anyway, I have to depart now and go salsa dancing. So Dave's going to have to pack up his kit and hit the M6. Sorry,
hit the M6
Dave.
and go south. It's fine. I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I love talking to you. I'm really looking forward to where you're going in the next 2 years, because the last 2 years have been amazing, and it's only going to get better.
It's a roller coaster, isn't it?
Sorted. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thanks for coming up the motorway.
Up the motorway, yes. Now time to go back down the motorway. See you later.
See you later.